Bella da nicchia ragazzi, benvenuti su Stanley Proprio. Allora, è un gioco che ho comprato, quando l'ho comprato? Qualche oretta fa, perché era in offerta su Steam e quindi ho deciso di comprarlo perché ha preso comunque dei buon voti e lo voglio un po' provare, insomma, lo proviamo insieme, vediamo un po' cos'è. A quanto ho capito dovrebbe essere uno che lavora in ufficio, che dopo un po', cioè all'improvviso gli spariscono tutti i suoi colleghi e insomma a quanto ho capito bisogna andare in giro a curiosare, a cercare il motivo perché sono spariti, trovare una via. Insomma è una cosa un po'...
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427.
Oh.
Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard.
Okay.
Orders came to him through a monitor at his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job.
Che bravo
Stanley was happy.
Certo, tutti saremmo felici a fare
And
un
then
lavoro
one
così.
day,
Schiaccia
something
questo
very
pulsante,
peculiar
schiaccia
happened.
quest'altro.
Something that would forever change Stanley.
Oddio,
Something
che è
he would
successo?
never quite forget.
Minchia, che è successo?
He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi.
Hi.
Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
E vai, oggi faccio libero, me ne vado, che cazzo, chi mi ha messo il gioco in pausa? E vai, vado a casa, non c'è nessuno, non si lavora oggi, e vai! Che cazzo? Oddio, fatemi uscire da sto
All of
posto.
his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Cos'è
Stanley decided to
successo?
go to the meeting room.
Dove sono
Perhaps
i
he
miei
had simply missed a
colleghi?
memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his
È
co-workers.
vero, non trovo niente. Dove sono
please. Are
tutti?
you really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No,
Perché?
no. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort.
Oh,
A measly
vaffanculo.
5 clicks. Now suppose you were to click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants recognition.
Ah, devo quindi cercare di aprire la porta 20 volte per darmi un achievement? Proprio una cosa interessante. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no?
I have to say, I'm
6,
still not feeling the
7,
satisfaction of
8,
witnessing true
9,
effort for a noble
10.
cause. Perhaps
Come
you should
50?
Yes, almost certainly.
Vaffanculo!
50 clicks.
50 click, ficcateli nel culo 50 click, oh. Pezzo di merda! Che pezzo di merda! Prima dice 5 e poi 20 dice fanno 50. E poi magari dice stai qui tutto il giorno che magari te lo do sto achievement. Nada, oh! Signor narratore, che mica devo fare? Ok, spacco la porta a pedate, porca miseria. Ah, c'è una porta aperta, non l'ho vista. Signor narratore, che devo fare? Guarda il quadro. Wow. Sono tutte le porte chiuse, ma tutte che fanno sesso dentro le stanze o cosa? Non c'è nessuno.
When Stanley
Cos'è?
came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ah, mi vuoi prendere per il culo, vero? Che sono completamente uguali. Lui dice, tu andrai a sinistra. Ok, raga, andiamo a destra. Oppure andiamo a sinistra. Andiamo a destra, affanculo.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Sì, Che cazzo è che ha buttato tutto per terra? Solo vede il capo, porca miseria, si incazza a bestia. Ai ai, raga, ci stanno dipendenti qua, ma non vi dico, ogni giorno è un casino qua dentro. Oh, è tutte chiuse, ma che cazzo, non apro più niente io qua. Ecco qua.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring.
Sì.
It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room.
Veramente una cagata
Stanley
pazzesca.
simply stood here, drinking it all in. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
La prima porta alla sua sinistra? No, dopo.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Ah, fanculo. Ma che mi devono licenziare a me? Minchia, mi ha preso un coppo. Wow, sala magazzini. Non si può neanche saltare. Do not jump. Quindi?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Ciao.
I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time.
Sì.
There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
Lo dico per lei.
It's Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself. To put your work aside. To let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
Minchia, chi è sta ragazza? È buona, è buona. Dov'è? Vaffanculo, ho accenduto la luce, vaffanculo.
That's her, Stanley. You need to be the one to do this. To reach out to her.
Vediamo un po'. Rispondo al telefono. Pronto? Chi è? Speriamo che non è mia mamma. Beh?
Oh, Stanley, is that you?
Sì.
Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go.
There we go.
Okay, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Mamma.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley.
Minchia, addirittura. Buongiorno impiegato 427, premi R sulla tua tastiera.
Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
Premi C, che cazzo?
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work.
C'ha ragione, così
One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life.
Lui ha ragione. Vado lì e vado là al lavoro, torno a casa, vado al lavoro, torno a casa, così la vita.
But in his mind, in his mind he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him.
Premi F per vedere la TV, ma mi sta facendo scrivere qualche parola in particolare.
And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly.
Premi 8 per spendere il tempo con i ragazzi.
So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door.
Alle
The mere
5:30.
thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold.
Premi il cibo e preparare la
As he
cena.
wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls. And down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions. And down another was a game with a baby. And he called it the Stanley Parable.
Fatemi uscire da sto posto.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time.
Amore, ti amo!
But there is no
Whoa.
answer. How could there possibly be?
Già, è vero.
In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one.
Andiamo a
And
dormire.
I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it.
Vaffanculo. Ok, non premo niente. Avanti. Forza. Sto aspettando. C'è pure l'orologio che fa tic tac, tic tac. Allora, che facciamo? Forza. Non schiaccio niente. No, no, no. Fammi uscire da sto posto di merda. Fammi uscire. Haha. Cazzo, ci voleva lui che me lo dicesse. Non schiacciare più i tasti, se no ti lascio qui a marcire finché non diventi vecchio e decrepito. Guardo l'orologio. Ma quant'è che ci vuole? Dai, ho capito che non devo premere niente, ma non è che mi deve far stare qui lo stesso 3 ore, eh? Ai ai, porca di quella miseria. Ma cos'è, una cella, una prigione questa? Allora? Si mette bene, oh. Mi sta a venire sonno, signor narratore! Dai, mi hai detto di non schiacciare niente, adesso mi pigli per il culo pure così? Cioè prima dice non schiacciare niente, adesso mi ha pure preso per il culo. Da 2 ore che mi piglia per il culo, mi sa. Che se fa? Boh. Oh! E meno male che mi ha detto non premere niente. Non lo fare. E quanto ci vuole? 5 minuti? Oh, fatemi uscire di qua. Cazzo si fa? Schiacciamo un po' di roba in giro. Minchia! Che cazzo? Ha detto non schiacciare niente, ha detto lui, lo stronzo ha detto non premere niente, non t'azzardare a premere niente, se no t'ammazzo, pezzo di merda, ma io non sto schiacciando niente, porca miseria, che devo fare? Sto diventando pazzo, sì. Magari sta cazzo di sedia, un calcio la sposta, sto scemo, no? Niente ragazzi, che devo fare? Me la risico, schiaccio il pulsante, che devo fare? Tanto mi sa che mi ha preso per il culo. Eh sì, è per forza, è lo schiaccio, perché sennò qua, che devo fare? Mi sta mettendo in una situazione, questo lo schiaccio o non lo schiaccio? Lo schiaccio o non lo schiaccio? Che faccio? Ok, vaffanculo, lo schiaccio, vai. Dov'è? Qual è?
You see?
Ecco.
Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself?
Mi sta
How
pigliando
can
per
I
il
get him
culo.
to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
Ok.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to.
Dai, fammi
I
capire
must.
sto messaggio, dai, dimmelo.
Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see.
Dimmi, dai,
Maybe this time.
dai, dimmi.
And I tried again.
Come muori?
And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again. And Stanley pushed a button. And I tried.
Ah, sono morto, finalmente! Mi sento meglio, liberato, basta che non senta lui. Sono morto! Non mi dica che questo è il game over. Ah, no! Tutto da capo, no! Pazzo di merda!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley
M'ammazzo!
decided to go to the meeting room.
M'ammazzo!
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
No, m'ammazzo, tutto da capo, mi sta
No
fa.
matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Pazzo di merda! Bastardo! 1, 2,
Please.
3.
Really just doing this for the achievement? Click a door 5 times. Is that all that you think an achievement is worth? No.
Ti
I can't
spacco
just
la
give
porta,
these merits
ti
away for
spacco.
such little effort.
Affanculo.
A measly 5 clicks.
Ok.
Now suppose you were to click the door 20 times. I would say that's the kind of effort that warrants
A
recognition.
cagare, brutto narratore da 2 soldi. Tutto da capo mi hai fatto fa, dai.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ok, andiamo a sinistra stavolta, vai. Facciamo come dice lui. Tanto mi ha preso per il culo prima, mi piglia per il culo anche ora, so stronzo maledetto.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Boss, dove cazzo sei, boss? C'è sto narratore che poi l'ammazza tra un altro po'. Dov'è il boss?
Coming
Sopra o
to a
sotto?
staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
No, vado sotto, c'è la ragazza.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations.
Oh.
For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he
Già,
went?
vero.
And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared.
Oh,
it
dear.
was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought.
Oggi giro
And
tutto
when
il
he thought
giorno
it all
qua.
very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life.
Tutta la sua vita.
Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in
sto
fact a dream.
sognando, raga,
Did the voice
sto
not see him float and make the
sognando.
magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So
Provare
he
che
closed
questo è un
his eyes
sogno.
gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back,
Oh,
the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself.
mi voglio
I'm through with this
svegliare.
dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job.
Fammi tornare a
Let me
premere
continue
pulsanti.
pushing the
Voglio
buttons.
tornare alla mia
Please.
noiosa vita,
It's
porca
all I
miseria.
I want my apartment,
Voglio
and my
mia-
wife,
Non ce
and
l'abbiamo
my
la moglie.
job.
Lavoro c'è.
All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal.
Io sono
am
normale.
normal.
Tutto andrà bene.
Everything will be fine.
Io che ho detto.
I am okay.
I am ok. E mo? Oh. Sono sempre qua! Anzi, pure
Stanley
peggio.
began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley.
Oh,
I have a
capo,
boss,
un
I have an
ufficio,
office.
sono
I am
reale.
real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Oh, perfetto. Mo se ricomincio da capo gli infilo un chiodo nel culo.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
Mariella?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk.
Oddio.
And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like.
Già.
And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my
So
mind.
cosa è reale, cosa
I
non
know
lo
what
è.
is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Certo, c'ho da fare, no? Ok. Quindi... tutto... ok, ho fatto la fine del sorcio. Va bene, ragazzi, a quanto ho capito...